Okay, so this next part I will pass my time to Eugene, where he will share with you how to actually conduct drills, for example.
Okay, thanks, Luis. So I'll start sharing my screen. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Eugene. I'm captain of 14th COI. So today I will just be doing a quick sharing on the drill batch work in the new curriculum. Yeah. So this is the brief agenda for today. So we'll first go through an overview, then share some resources, and then suggest some ways to infuse the C before going to Q&A. So for overview, right, it's quite simple. Essentially, under the new curriculum, there's basic and advanced levels. Essentially now there are only 2 levels, whereas in the past, there's stage 1, 2, and 3. So if you want to map out how it would roughly fit based on the old curriculum, this is how it would look like roughly. So basic is roughly equivalent to stage 1, and advanced is roughly equivalent to the old stage 2 and 3. Yeah, and then for basic, the movements that are covered are basically the movements that are required for companies to do enrollment parade. And then advanced are the more advanced things. So yeah, so this is a list of a summary of the drill movements covered under basic. Yeah, and then advanced, you'll see the more advanced things that need not necessarily be covered for enrollment. So things like slow march, slow march, all the side step, and some of the stage 3 drills in the old curriculum. Okay, so moving on to resources, right? So I thought we just share some of the available resources that will be made available to companies. So there are 4 of these resources. So the first one is drill guide. Essentially, as of now, we are coming up with a concise guide, which is essentially a concise document to share with companies how to basically conduct the drill batch work. Essentially, it will have like a summary of all the drill movements at basic and advanced levels, like on the tables that have been shown earlier, as well as an overview of the CE values for each drill lesson. So the purpose of this would be is so that like companies can see how the CE can have an overview of all the CE values across the 10 lessons for each stage, and then sort of like have some sort of flexibility to tweak around the lessons as you all see fit. So this drill guide currently is not up yet, but once it's up, it will be posted on the Google Drive. For the second resource is the drill lesson.
Hi, Eugene. I think there is your share screen for Zoom. I think it's covering part of the slide. Do you want to shift it up? Yeah, this part here is covering parts of the screen, so we can't see. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now, okay.
It's still in the middle of the slide.
Okay, I think now should be okay.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, now it's good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so moving on to the second resource, it will be the drill lesson guides, which are already available on the Google Drive. But as of now, we are doing some tweaks to these guides to sort of like make the CE lessons more applicable to a drill session. So for example, some of the CE lessons suggested showing a video to the boys, but we understand that showing a video before or after or in the middle of a drill session is not very feasible. So we are in the midst of tweaking some of these things. And once it's done, we will, I think it will be made available on the Google Drive as well. Yeah, so for the next part is just to share how to get to the Google Drive. I believe this most people should already know lah. So this link should have been shared to all companies already. So once you are in the drive, then just click personal mastery and then drill, and then you'll see all the resources there. Yeah, so the third resource is just drill manual, which I believe most companies already have. And yeah, it's useful for drill theory lah. And then the fourth is YouTube video. So actually this one, I think some companies might not know. So essentially HQ has a series of videos that shows like the practical demonstration of drills. And they are available on basically their YouTube channel. I just need to go on this link and search. Yeah. So this is the next part of my presentation, which is on how to sort of infuse CE into the drill lesson. So just a disclaimer, right? Before I move on, this is just a suggested way. It's not prescriptive. So if, for example, if your company has a way of how y'all have been doing this, right, then y'all are free to carry on with that. But this whatever I will be sharing now is just a suggestion for your consideration. Yeah. So first is the first thing I'll cover is where can the CE be inserted. So basically within the 1 hour drill lesson, right, where can we slot the CE? So essentially there are 3 options lah: start, middle, and end. And I'll cover some reasons, advantage and disadvantage of each option. So at the start, it will look something like that. So CE at the start, and then after CE, then you do drill and the debrief. So this model, right, would allow you to make the CE as sort of like a devotion. So if, for example, like your drill is like the first activity after your roll call, then it would sort of make sense lah. So you have your roll call, and then after that, the CE that you are conducting would be sort of like a devotion. Then after that, okay, we carry on with drill, something like that. Then in the middle would be sort of like you want the CE to sort of really infuse in the middle of the drill session. So it would be like sort of like a water break in the middle of the drill session. Then you get the boys to sit down, then conduct this sharing of the CE. So but one thing to note is that it might be a bit awkward because it can be a bit random to suddenly just water break and then okay boys come, let's talk about CE and stuff like that. So it might be awkward unless the CE has some link to the drill session. So for example, 2.1 is on self-control, then perhaps there's some sort of link to not adjusting, not fidgeting during drill, then perhaps it might work. But if not, it might be a bit awkward lah. The last one would be to put the CE at the end, means after you do drill. And I guess this would work if your next activity is like a classroom-based activity and for some reason, you want to conduct the CE in the classroom because maybe you want to show some videos, then this might be preferred. But but at the same time, for the drill, as mentioned earlier, right, the CE sessions for the CE lessons that will be part of the drill lesson plans will be such that they do not require videos now because of the drill setting, which is mainly outdoor. So we will not really want to put in videos in the lesson plan, but for officers who want to show videos, then this could be a model that might work lah. Yeah, so this is the next part, which is essentially going into the 15-minute CE itself, how to the general structure lah. So as mentioned earlier, the context is that this is done during drill session, which is usually outdoor. So you won't have access to slides and technology lah. It will be purely verbal. Your delivery will be verbal. So the suggested structure would be first, just officers share. Then after that, break the boys up into groups for discussion. After that, everyone come back and then officer will wrap up. So officer share, right, will be the start of the presentation when the officer share will be on this dark blue box that can be found at the top of every lesson plan lah. So usually it's just to introduce, I guess, the value. So for example, this one would be self-control, just to set the context for what is self-control about. Then after that, the next part would be just to give the boys some reflection questions, break them up into groups and let them discuss. So these questions, right, in the lesson plan, there are these questions, and sometimes you will see, at the top, sometimes at the top, there will always be these reflection questions. And then sometimes in the lesson plans, there will be other discussion questions as well. So these are the questions that officers can sort of like pick on to share, to get the boys to discuss. But of course, these are just suggested questions lah. Officers can like tweak around and just tweak around based on how the officer sees fit. So after the discussion, then perhaps can get the boys to just do a quick sharing. So maybe get one boy from each group to just share. Then after that, the officer will wrap up the whole lesson. So just draw out some of the key lessons lah, that will be that is shared in the remaining of the CE lesson plan. Yeah, so just some final points to note. Whatever the way in which CE is shared, the way that I've shared on how to share the CE is merely a suggestion. It's not really like the only way to do it. I'm sure there are other ways in which companies are doing it lah. So this is just one way that we are proposing for your consideration lah. And really, companies have the flexibility as to how they want to infuse the CE. I think the bottom line is just that ultimately there is this CE element within our BB curriculum for the boys lah. Yeah. So yeah, that's all for my part. I think we can move on to the Q&A.
Okay, hi everyone. Okay, let me do some magic first. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can post them onto the Q&A. I will moderate the questions, so then that way, the questions, if I can answer, I'll answer. Those that maybe I need the help of the committee, I will direct to them. So that way we control the flow of how we proceed with the Q&A portion. So currently right now, there are already 2 questions on the Q&A. So the first question is on the new portal. So when would the new portal be ready? So the thing is, we have been working with the vendor. So the thing is, also Felisa has met with the vendor earlier. The vendor is currently working through some issues with the officer management system, so which is the part where we control the logins, the login of the boys and the officers. So there's some teething issues with that portion. So without that, we cannot transit the boys onto the new platform. The learning platform itself already is workable, ready to be used, just that because we can't give access to the accounts from the officer management portion, so hence we cannot transit live and in full. If not, there'll be quite a lot of teething issues. So we ask for the patience for that portion. So the committee also would be coming alongside to see how they can help with the issue and to see how we can bring the new portal up to speed. Yep. So the next question on the Yuben is asking whether if the boy has already attained swim safe in Go already in primary school, can they still get the points here? So I think riding on the point that Louis brought out earlier, what is that? I mean, it's very easy to play the system to get the points here and there. But I think it's more of the spirit behind the thing. Because if I would say that if the company charts out the points progression, such that all the boys in the company can attain SPA or even Founders Award, then there's no need to like go and work out the individual awards for the boys. But for example, if this boy happened to join us late, and then really needs to catch up on the points, no to have time to do other activities, and of course you can use the old what he has attained in primary school to clock in now. But the committee here is suggesting for our boys to clock in their points within our program as a company under the CE mentorship of the officers. Hence, that's why we saw even for swimming, we have that CE portion there, because it's not just about the activities itself. It's about doing activities as a platform to talk about values, to talk about Christianity. Then, so it's not really about getting the points in that sense, but these points in a sense are a platform for us to talk about Jesus basically. So if we want to go and count primary school things, we might miss the opportunity to do that. But of course, if we really need to go and need for this boy to need one more point to get his finals award, I'm sure that we can find a way around that for this one. So I asked, can we still award a CE badge for the boys? So yes, I think there may not be brought up here, but I think it was addressed by Felisa in the SP conference last round. So we will still award a CE badge in two forms. So one is if they if the companies have already their own pre-existing materials, they can use them. The guidelines I think is you must finish 30 lessons of CE lessons in 3 years. But if companies, for some reason, would prefer to use the character excellence materials in the new curriculum, if the boys meet the criteria here, so we have basic adventure, basic drill, and then 6 elective points under personal mastery, then the boys will get the CE badge. So the thing is, CE badge is still alive. It's not phased out. CE badge will be a prerequisite for the finals award. So you can attain the badge in these ways, because it's depending, what we're doing here is to cater for the varying circumstances that the companies may face in schools. So some schools have the privilege of being in a mission. So some companies have the privilege of being in a mission school, while some companies are in a position where maybe they're not allowed to overtly talk about Christianity. And so by having this, we hope that we will be able to bring across the character values to the boys. Yeah, so there's, I think, all the questions we have for now. So please feel free to continue putting your questions into the Q&A. After we have cleared the portion, I will share another resource that we have come up with. Unless the committee, Felisa or Louis or Eugene has any other pointers to make to any the questions that I raised earlier, that I've addressed earlier.
I think it's okay. Elijah, you can move on to the thing that you want to share. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we are still open for questions. Let me just pull up that portion, the thing I want to share. Hold on now. But so yeah, if you guys have any questions, please continue to feel free to post it, and we're more than happy to have your questions answered, because if not, this session would lose a little of its truthfulness. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. Let me just close this. Okay, so what we have come up with is a tracker for the companies to count points. So I know maybe like, oh, I don't know how to go and count the points. What is 2 points, what is 3 points? So we hope to release this after the committee has run through it and finalize it. So basically, you just need to put in yes or no accordingly, and then all this will update by itself. So for example, if my boys have attained basic drill, and then they have attained advanced adventure, then it will automatically count for me the points they have attained. Okay, there's some problems right now already, so I see. But yeah, I mean, this gives a snapshot of what we have come up with, and hope that this helps the companies to better have a handle of the points. This one is work in progress, so bear with me as do some mistakes here. Yep.
Elijah, there's a question.
Yeah.
Is this template for individual boys, or can it be used?
Yeah, so the template, the intent is to use it as a batch, so to know, like, to roughly as a company, how can we track, what can we plan out such that the boys can attain their SPA or founders. Also can be useful to go and use it to refer for individual boys. If for example, I don't know why this boy for some reason can't attain his SPA, I can't seem to apply for the form. You can use it to go and count his points. But I think it's more useful to be used as a batch rather than for individual boys, because if not, it can get a bit messy lah. Okay, I will let Louis or Eugene take the question from Kevin.
Okay, so Kevin asked, may I check in the event if you somehow miss the chance to touch on the CE portion for a lesson due to time constraints? Is there a way to make up for the lost CE lesson so the boys will lose out on the CE learning? Yeah, great question. So the CE element is really meant to be flexible, right? So you rightfully also pointed out. So for example, just now when Eugene was sharing the drills, for example, and if you, I'm not sure how many of you actually realize that in a parade, it's quite impossible to have, let's say, maybe 40 minutes just for drills, right? And then you have like another 20 minutes to do the CE. And likelihood is that during that 40 minutes, because you are correcting the boys and then you're polishing up some of the drills, 40 minutes definitely not enough. And then you will overrun and you will hit the 1 hour or even more than that. And then you don't have time for the CE. It's totally flexible how you want to cater that. You can do it again the subsequent parade, or you can go back to the traditional kind of like CE lesson. It is totally fine. But the important thing is that we don't just run drill lessons and then after that we totally forgot about CE, because the whole point of all this patchwork is really to introduce and talk about price and talk about all these good values that we want to teach them. So there is no there's no like the best way to do it. Is really up to you. But I think the important thing is when we talk about the Infuse CE values, even though just now I show that let's say for adventure and drills, right, there is the first lesson, second lesson, third lesson. Do you have to follow it strictly? You don't have to. For example, if you're teaching the drill lesson and for some reason today everybody is very fidgety and you want to talk about self-control today, you can bring up the self-control value lesson guide straight away and just do that sharing. We actually, as a team, we are actually right now reviewing the content. Also at the same time, we're trying to make it more modular, even for this lesson guides. So even though lesson guides right now is really like one lesson is one, right? But we are taking out all the CE lessons individually and say that, okay, this is the value for this. Because at the end of the day, you teach Sedia, doesn't mean Sedia must teach self-control. It can be something else, right? There is no real link between the particular drill, the specific technical drill, and also the CE lesson. So yeah, so feel free to do that lah. But I think to maybe just share, if let's say if you feel that CE is very detached from it, right? And if you want to, let's say, run alpha course, okay, you can do that, right? Doesn't mean that we don't share alpha materials, you cannot do alpha course, for example. Yeah. So yeah, Kevin, hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much for your questions. Are there any more last few questions? If not, I think you can also feel free to email. Oh, there's one more. Yes, okay, great, come. Jiehui. Is there like a sample or suggested yearly schedule scheme of work of the new program?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So when we did a pilot, because everyone starts on a clean slate, so I think we had a suggested schedule for the SP curriculum. But of course, now that we are rolling out en masse with all the companies, I think as also shared by Louis, right, the workload is actually much lighter. So you can, I think you can use your old company templates that you've been using in the past to use for this year. And plus the benefit of the new curriculum is that because now you can run lessons across batches. So if you have manpower constraints, right, you can still do the lesson. So you can do one lesson, and that would, you can teach that for 2 batches, and that will help with the manpower constraint. So of course that would come into play when you plan your yearly schedule. But I think with the new curriculum, it makes the yearly schedule a bit easier. But of course, if you need some reference, I can share perhaps separately over email, or when we answer the Q&A again, the suggested one for the pilot companies when we did it for them. In fact, I would say not a lot of pilot companies follow that schedule because they all use their own what they have been familiar with already in terms of their own calendar and their own seasons to do their pilot. But we can share that resource as a suggestion for the companies.
Are there any further questions? Okay. If not, you can always feel free to email HQ or email me, and then we'll direct the questions to the subcommittees as well to answer your questions. Okay, so Elijah, we will do a closing prayer and a Vesper. Okay,